What's happening, guys? Founders Field Notes, episode 20. We've made it to episode 20. Right. Unfortunately, my microphone let me down today, so I'm going to have to do this sans mic. So hopefully the audio is okay. I have made some notes, but essentially this week's episode is about how I built one of my best assets, and that is a network of millionaires, right? And how have I done that? To Tyler Newman's mastermind, right? It was probably last year at some point. One of the exercises that Tyler made us do was to go through our phone and write down a list of names in your phone that could be potential investors, like property for your property business, right? And the exercise was supposed to show that everyone has a network or a network of a network. The interesting thing is, when I did this exercise at that mastermind, I had a list of about 20 millionaires. And these are just people in my phone, people I know. And I think everyone else, including myself, was quite shocked at how well connected I was to some very wealthy and successful people. It was a conscious thing. I did do it. I have put effort into that. So I'm going to break it down and I'm going to tell you how I did that. And you got to look at it like this. It is an asset, right? Your community is an asset. I think a lot of people, they subconsciously just allow, right, whoever is around them in their vicinity, this is my network. This is who I like. Whereas I've been way more intentional about that stuff, way more intentional about who I'm around and who I'll have around me. And some people think that's weird, right? And some people think it's smart. It's just, and I don't do it, just full transparency. I don't do it for what I can get out of it, right? I do it because those are the people that I find most interesting. I think the first thing there is that, I've always been curious about people who are successful. I've always been borderline obsessed with people who are successful. When I was a musician, I read all of the musicians' like autobiographies. I wanted to know how they made it, like what was it they did, what was it they didn't do. I've always been obsessed with successful people, and I'm not just talking financially. I'm talking in any realm of life. If someone's got mastery in something, I want to know how they did it. I find it really interesting. I read a lot about athletes and sports. I read a lot about business. I even read a lot about like history, like whether it's Genghis Khan or Alexander the Great or Marcus Aurelius, whoever. I want to know about these people. I find them interesting. So I think that's the first piece. You got to be curious to the point of like obsession. I don't think you got to be obsessed like me, but I think you've certainly got to be curious, because when you're curious, you ask more questions, right? And asking questions is an important factor. The second element, right, is environment. And I had no money and nowhere to live. I chose to live in the town that I live now because it is a very affluent area, one of the most affluent areas in the country. And I strategically put myself here. I remember before I lived here, and I was in the area we were visiting, right, for the day. And I knew the area quite well. But me and my girlfriend at the time were sat in the town square having a coffee. And it was a nice sunny day. I think it was a Sunday. And I saw like Ferraris going by and nice cars everywhere and wealthy people. And I was just like, I need to be here, right? I need to be here. I need to be the smallest fish in the pond, if you know what I mean. And I've always taken that attitude with most things, right? I don't want to be the biggest guy in the gym or the highest graded jiu-jitsu guy in the academy. I don't want to be the biggest, the most successful businessman in the room. Do you know what I mean? I want to be on the lower end of the totem pole because that's what I like. I like to be able to look up to others around me. So I strategically put myself here. Later on, when I started making more money, I even took that up a level where I moved to a particular building in the town I live, where it's very expensive and it's all luxury apartments, right? And then now my neighbors are more, how do you put it, successful people. And I remember when I first moved here, I went to like a bit of a social gathering, and all of the neighbors and that, they were all like interesting. They all had interesting jobs or did interesting stuff, even like just the silly stuff, right? Like we were all talking about watches. Everyone there had like a cool watch on, and it was just interesting. It was really inspiring for me, because I didn't have that stuff at the time. And so to be in a room and everyone's wearing like, yellow gold Daytonas or whatever it was, I was just like, wow, this is cool. I've only seen this on my phone. I haven't seen this in person. So it was cool to me. Getting in my car in the car park and there's Ferraris around, is inspiring to me. This isn't like now my frequency. So I'm always trying to bring my frequency up, and I like being around it, right? It charges my battery, so to speak. So another one that I'll say is like hobbies, like, and pastimes. What you do in your spare time, I think will have an effect on your network, right? I always lifted weights, right? And when I was into powerlifting and just like lifting weights, I found that my hobby, a lot of my friendships came out of that, right? And, a lot of different types of people. It was great. But when I got into jiu-jitsu, I started meeting a different caliber of person, right? Because to do jiu-jitsu or combat sports, I think you tend to meet, there's a different mentality there. And of course, there are some dickheads, right? But on the whole, people who do sports like jiu-jitsu are very highly motivated. They've got good staying power. They have all these skills. And I've met some very successful people through jiu-jitsu. Another hobby that I've always had for a long time is cigars. Like anyone who knows me knows that I've been a cigar nut for years, long before it was cool, right? Long before Andrew Tate started smoking cigars. If you scroll back over the 7 years of this YouTube channel, my first video is about cigars. And cigars, they're another hobby or pastime that attract successful people, I guess because it's expensive, right? Although it's been a hobby of mine, even when I didn't have any money. So, and I don't know why that is. I guess there's a element of tradition to it, maybe, which attracts that type of person. I know a cigar is very synonymous with success, right? But I've met a lot of successful people through cigar smoking. Even recently when I was up at James J. Fox and I went into the lounge and had a cigar, and I ended up getting chatting with a guy who was, a very successful guy who went into businesses and shook them up. And I won't say too much about him, but really interesting guy, man. The conversation that we had was amazing. And we swapped details afterwards and we became friends. Like I wouldn't have met that guy had I not been smoking a cigar and had we not had a common interest, right? So I think your hobbies and your interests, there are some that you can do that will definitely stimulate your network, right, in a positive way. The same can be said with cars. You'll hear people talk about it all the time when they got nice cars, like let's say you buy a Ferrari, you're now part of the Ferrari club or the Porsche club or whatever it is you drive, and you'll meet other owners and those people tend to be successful. So, there's levels to it. There are levels to it. Some people say that they'll buy a certain watch because it will get them to get them in the same rooms with people. Like, listen, I've never taken it to that extreme. I'll buy a watch because I like it, not because of who it's going to get me near. And I do same with my hobbies. I do my hobbies because I genuinely love them. It just so happens that they can get you in the room with some interesting people. Main point I wanted to take you away is the intention behind it. Being very intentional about who you spend your time with. And I've been very intentional about who I spend my time with for a long time. Definitely the last 10 years. And it has paid off in the form of a very, very powerful network. Now, I don't believe in leveraging that network just for financial gain. I think the main reason that you would build a network like that is for advice and counsel, and also inspiration and motivation. I don't believe in going to people and I think there's this perception that if you're surrounded by millionaires, then you're going to be the next millionaire too. Maybe, yeah, it's more likely than if you weren't. But I think it's more about the fact that, like, if you're like me, you will find that more stimulating. Like, to the point where sometimes, right, if I hang out with, let me be real, let me be really honest. There are times, right, where I've gotten together with old groups of friends, and you know what happens then. Everyone's married or got girlfriends and partners and stuff, so they bring those people along as well. And they might not necessarily be people who you would choose to be around, but you're all together in the same room, and for the most part, it's generally cool. But often, I find myself really struggling in those situations. The level of conversation for me is just really hard to deal with. It's gossip, oh, did you hear what so-and-so's done? Oh, have you seen who so-and-so is? And oh, like, have you seen what they posted on there? Like, and I just find that shit like really, really fucking boring. Whereas when I'm around very interesting people who have achieved a lot in their life, that conversation tends to be way more stimulating to me. So, it has done me some harm. Like, being around high caliber people has kind of like made it harder to be around people who are not, I'm not saying that everyone who's successful is interesting. I've met some very successful people who are really boring or total dickheads. And the same on the other end of the scale. I know people who haven't got a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of, but they're really interesting, and they've got really cool things about them, So this isn't just about money, but it's definitely worth paying attention to, right? Like your network. And there's that old saying, man, your network is your net worth. There might be some truth in that. But I'm just pointing it out because it's something that I've been quite good at. And I'm a personable guy, and I like getting along with people, and I find it easy to make friends. And it is one thing that I think I've pretty much nailed at this point. I've got like a great network. And if you're watching this and you're in my network, yeah, like the people I'm around are generally quite inspiring, generally quite successful, interesting. And when I hang out with these people, they recharge my batteries, right? They don't drain, they don't take anything from me. And I hope to be the same to them, right? Think about it, man. Like, think about who you're spending your time with. Think about who you're hanging around with, and be conscious of it, because it can pay huge dividends in your life. That's it for today. If you like this video, make sure you give it a like. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe. I drop 2 videos every week. The next video will be my vlog up on Sunday. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time.